This courtroom drama explodes from the very first second. What should have been a routine hearing quickly turns into a fiery showdown as a self-proclaimed sovereign citizen goes head-to-head with the judge. Facing charges for resisting arrest and allegedly assaulting a police officer during a protest, the defendant doesn't focus on defending himself. Instead, he launches into a series of shocking accusations, interruptions, and personal attacks that leave the entire courtroom stunned. He boldly claims he's a prisoner in his own country, insisting that his constitutional rights were violated and that he was simply exercising his right to protest. But rather than presenting legal arguments, he repeatedly talks over the judge, accuses the court of racism, and even suggests there's a larger conspiracy involving city and state officials. The tension rises with every exchange, as the judge attempts to maintain control while the defendant continues to challenge her authority. As the hearing unfolds, it becomes clear that this isn't just about the charges, it's about control, defiance, and a deep distrust of the legal system. The defendant claims he has studied the law, written his own constitution, and refuses to recognize the court's legitimacy. Meanwhile, the judge is forced to balance professionalism with patience in the face of relentless disrespect. The breaking point comes when the judge, after enduring repeated insults and accusations, decides she will no longer tolerate the abuse. In a surprising twist, she grants the defendant's request and disqualifies herself from the case. Some viewers argue this gave the defendant exactly what he wanted, while others believe the judge handled an impossible situation with restraint. This video is a powerful look at what happens when courtroom procedure collides with extreme defiance. And how quickly a legal hearing can spiral into unforgettable chaos.
Of the complaining witnesses and protection of society if this court deems necessary.
This is somebody violated a law. I haven't violated nothing.
Sir,
The
allegation is that you assaulted, resisted, obstructed a police officer causing injury, and trespassed.
It's just an allegation.
You're correct. You're correct. But as a condition of bond, there are certain factors the court has to take into consideration when assessing bond, and the court has judicial discretion to assess bond conditions. That is what this court did. I didn't place you on house arrest, told you couldn't move anywhere. I didn't do any of that, sir. I simply put forth conditions relevant to the allegations therein. And sir, I'm very much aware that they are allegations only.
Yeah, you need to read the whole thing of the just one. I got like 15 issues in there.
15 issues.
Yeah, you need to read the whole thing. Also, Jan, I publicly protested the day in front of your court.
Okay.
But none of your police came out to arrest me because that's my constitutional right to do. I'm not ignorant of my constitutional rights. I'm not ignorant. A judge told me a long time ago, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Right.
And so I studied a little bit. I don't know a lot, but I know my constitutional rights. I've done read your European Constitution over and over again. Actually, I wrote one of my own. If I followed your white laws, I follow them, and then you stomp on me when I follow your laws. You've been doing this for hundreds of years. You know, Martin Luther King marched.
I'm 100 years old, so do not accuse me of stomping on anything.
Well,
let's be very clear on that.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, don't seem like it.
I'm not 100 years old, sir. Were you interfered with at all while you were engaging in your protest?
My constitution right now?
No, you
I did at the city of Woodhaven, though. Now you condemning me for it because you restricted me.
Sir, let me be very clear.
I've committed no crime.
I am restricting, I put conditions on for the protection of the complaining witnesses, which is the authority that I've been given with my judicial discretion.
You also took an oath to uphold every citizen's constitutional right to public protest. Okay. If you're not doing that.
Sir, let me clarify. Let me clarify something. There is a balancing act that as judges we have to do. So we have you're charged with a crime, right? It's an allegation. We have the protection of the victim and the community. All right? So there's a balancing act that this court has to do. And that is what this court is doing. I have not restricted all of your movement. I have not said you can't put signs up anywhere, you can't go on any public property. I have not done that, sir.
You did?
No. What I did was I addressed specifically the complaining witness and the victims in this matter. That is what I did, and that is what I have the authority to do that's been given to me by the U.S. Constitution as well. That's statutory authority. Whether you agree with that or not, sir. I understand you don't agree, but that's not a basis for this court to disqualify itself. Let's see what the next one is here.
When I go to schools and you'll wind out, you should arrest me, but you're not going to.
Let me just clarify. I, as a judge, do not have the authority to arrest you myself.
Well, they don't either. They took an oath to uphold my civil rights, whether they like it or not.
Sir, did anybody arrest you here?
You weren't supposed to. It's my constitutional right to do. Just like in the city of Woodhaven. This is what I'm trying to get through to you. You're trying to say, no. There's allegations against you that you did this, and this. I'm trying to tell you I exercised my constitutional rights, and they violated me. I'm the victim.
And sir, that is everything that will come through discovery and whatnot. At this stage, this is considered, and there's a process.
Like, I don't know it. I know your process. I've been down your roads before. But
I don't know what roads of mine you've been down, sir.
I'm 15.
But you've been here, excuse me, you've been here in this court a number of times,
yes,
as other matters have been disqualified.
Yes,
and you have been treated with respect and fairness. And I believe you even stated that yourself.
That's not all entirely true.
Hold on, sir. I believe you even stated that yourself.
Yeah, but that's not all entirely true. You wasn't here to dismiss the posted signs, was you? You should have been here when the prosecutor dismissed City of Woodhaven posted signs. What? You didn't show up then.
What? Hold on, sir. I don't even know what one that is you're talking about.
Well, it was the one that we was going through and postpone. The City of Woodhaven wrote violation. No, they wrote violations on me for posted signs in this case. In other cases. Because I was protesting in the city of Woodhaven.
Okay.
But on that, the day that you were supposed to be here, had that case dismissed, another judge took your place. You think I'm sleepy or stupid, I'm not. But I'm 15.
Stop there right now, sir. Stop there right now. I don't think you're sleepy and I don't think you're stupid. When was that case? The one that you're talking about that I had another judge sitting for me, when was that case?
That was, I don't know the exact date of it, but I know the case was dismissed by a prosecutor.
Okay. Was that about a year ago, sir?
It was last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the time that I had somebody sitting here in my place was because I had to go to Illinois on an emergency basis because my father had a stroke.
Oh, my
so
fault.
instead of having everything dismissed, I made sure I had another judge here to cover. So do not accuse me of thinking that you're sleepy or stupid. I made sure that there was a judge here to cover it anyway. So whether I was here or not is irrelevant.
The case got dismissed from the city of Woodhaven. But anyway, I'm 15, the defendant under Michigan Court Rule 2.003 requests a hearing by a district court chief judge in case if judge refuses to dismiss herself from this case. I know I have a constitutional right. If you don't dismiss yourself, I have the right for another judge to look at it. This way it's impartial. It's where another judge can look at it and not just yourself. And apparently you want to hold this case for a reason. And I believe that you in the city of Woodhaven, the state of Michigan is I'm crazy or not, but that's what I'm seeing. Because if you're fighting so hard to keep this case in your court, there's something wrong. Something got to be wrong. You already violated my constitutional right to public protest at the city of Woodhaven because of allegations that I committed assault against the police officer. You guys don't even know me.
Sir, okay, stop right there, please, just one moment. So, I'm not fighting to hold on to this case. I was assigned this case by the State Court Administrative Office. Now, I'm also elected to preside over cases. So, unless there's a valid reason for this court to disqualify itself, I'm obligated, whether I want to or not, to sit and preside over the matter. I am the chief judge of this court, and so I don't find that there's a basis at this point for me to disqualify myself. However, you certainly have the right to request the State Court Administrative Office can review that. That's absolutely your right. That's how that gets reviewed.
Well, yeah, I want another judge to look at this, because if you don't want to dismiss yourself from this case, we got a problem right there. Because you,
There's no problem, sir. I have a responsibility.
City with it.
Sir, I have a responsibility. The matter was transferred over to the 27th District Court because the 33rd District Court disqualified itself. Perhaps they sent it here because the other matters that you've had here, I don't know. I didn't ask for the case to be sent here.
Haven, I think the judge Ken Bash or something like that, he might be up there somewhere. He's retired now. You guys did me the same thing, same way you did.
You guys, I wasn't here.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Your system, you wasn't here, you're not 100 years old.
It's not my system. It's the system of the country. It's the entire system. You keep accusing this court that I'm 100 years old and I've been oppressing things for 100 years, that it's my system.
Well, I'm saying
I didn't arrest you. That is not
it's your
my system.
regardless, this is your system. It's not mine.
It is yours. It's
No,
not.
it's not. I'm Native Indian African. I'm not even a citizen.
No?
No, I'm a prisoner in my own country because of you white people. Y'all need to go back home where you guys come from.
Okay, sir. Well, let me just say this. All right. You are accusing this court of being biased and prejudiced.
And racist. Yeah.
And racist. However, your comments, sir, would seem to suggest otherwise.
Look, why do you raped us, you robbed us, and you murdered us legally?
Stop right
Everything
there.
that you people
Stop
do
right
is legal.
there. It's not you. I did not do that.
You're the system.
Do not put that on me. But here's what I'm going to do, sir. I'm going to grant your request. And this court's going to disqualify itself, and you can figure out which other court's going to handle this matter. After the state court administrator sends wherever it's got to send, whatever it has to send. So, because at this point, I am not going to stay here, take the abuse from you and your allegations, which are completely false and unbased. This court, myself, did not do anything that you're accusing me of doing, at all. I wasn't even around at that point. So we're going off the record. You can step outside in the lobby. Somebody will give you the next stuff you have to do.
And I'll give you a call, Mr. Kelly. Thank you very much for helping me.
What you are about to witness is not just a courtroom hearing, it's a complete collision between authority and defiance. The room is quiet at first. The judge takes her seat, the clerk prepares the file, and the defendant stands before the bench facing serious charges, resisting arrest and allegedly assaulting a police officer during a protest. On paper, it's a straightforward criminal case. But within moments, it becomes clear this hearing is about to spiral into something far more explosive. Before the judge can fully outline the purpose of the proceeding, the defendant interrupts. His tone is sharp, confrontational, and filled with anger. He doesn't begin by addressing the charges. Instead, he challenges the legitimacy of the court itself. He claims he is a prisoner in his own country, arguing that the system has oppressed people like him for generations. His voice echoes through the courtroom as he frames himself not as a defendant, but as a victim of institutional injustice. The judge attempts to regain control, calmly reminding him that he will have an opportunity to speak, but only when it's appropriate. She explains that the court must follow procedure. But procedure means nothing to him. He cuts her off again. And again. Every attempt at order is met with resistance. Then the accusations begin. He tells court officials to go back home where you come from, making racially charged remarks that immediately shift the atmosphere from tense to hostile. The courtroom stiffens. The judge remains composed, but her expression tightens. She warns him that such comments are inappropriate and will not be tolerated. He responds not with compliance, but with escalation. He calls the judge racist. He claims the court has upheld over 100 years of oppression. He insists that the charges against him are not about resisting arrest or assaulting an officer, they are about silencing him for exercising his constitutional rights. According to him, he was peacefully protesting. He argues that the police were the aggressors. He says he was violated, not the other way around. He claims the arrest was unlawful, unconstitutional, and politically motivated. He speaks with absolute certainty, declaring that he has studied the law extensively. He says he knows his rights better than the people trying to prosecute him. The judge attempts to clarify the charges. She outlines the allegations: resisting arrest, assaulting an officer during a protest. She reminds him that this hearing is not a political debate, it's a legal proceeding. But every time she tries to redirect the focus, he interrupts. He insists that he was exercising his First Amendment rights. He insists that he cannot be charged for standing up for himself. He insists that the system is corrupt. As the minutes pass, the dynamic becomes clear. The judge is trying to conduct a hearing. The defendant is trying to conduct a protest. He claims he even wrote his own constitution. He suggests that the existing legal framework does not apply to him in the way the court believes it does. He questions jurisdiction. He questions authority. He questions whether the court even has the power to judge him. The judge warns him repeatedly: if he continues to interrupt, there will be consequences. But warnings don't slow him down. If anything, they fuel him. He grows louder, more animated, more determined to challenge every word spoken from the bench. Then the allegations grow even broader. He claims there is a conspiracy against him. Not just from the police. Not just from the prosecutor. But from the judge herself. He accuses the city of Woodhaven and the state of Michigan of working together to target him. In his narrative, this isn't a simple criminal case, it's a coordinated effort to suppress him. The judge firmly denies any bias. She explains that personal accusations have no place in court. She reminds him that disagreements with rulings do not equal conspiracy. Her tone remains measured, but the strain is visible. She is balancing professionalism with mounting disruption. At several points, she tries to give him structured opportunities to speak. She asks direct questions related to the charges. Instead of answering, he pivots back to constitutional rhetoric. He repeats that he was violated. He repeats that he is being persecuted. He repeats that he will not recognize what he views as illegitimate authority. The courtroom becomes a tug-of-war between order and defiance. Observers can sense the tension building. Each interruption chips away at the flow of the proceeding. Each insult pushes the boundaries of decorum further. The judge's patience is tested repeatedly, but she avoids raising her voice. She avoids reacting emotionally. She sticks to the procedural script as best she can. But the defendant is not interested in procedure. He frames every instruction as oppression. He frames every ruling as racism. He frames every attempt at structure as proof of corruption. At one point, the exchange becomes intensely personal. He openly accuses the judge of racism again, suggesting her decisions are not based on law but on prejudice. The accusation hangs heavy in the room. Courtrooms rely on respect for the bench. Without it, the system begins to fracture. The judge pauses. She takes a breath. She explains clearly that such accusations are serious and unfounded. She states that she has treated him no differently than any other defendant. She warns him that continued personal attacks may result in contempt. Still, he doesn't back down. He demands that she disqualify herself from the case. He argues that her presence alone makes a fair hearing impossible. He insists that her alleged bias has tainted the process beyond repair. From the outside, it looks like a standoff. On one side, a judge trying to uphold order and maintain judicial integrity. On the other, a defendant who sees himself as standing against a corrupt system. The judge considers her options. She could issue a contempt charge. She could have him removed from the courtroom. She could escalate enforcement. But escalation may only validate his narrative of persecution. The defendant continues speaking over her, repeating that he is being targeted, that he is being silenced, that this court has no authority over him. And then comes the moment no one expected. After enduring repeated interruptions, insults, and accusations, the judge announces her decision. She grants the request for disqualification. She states clearly that she will not tolerate continued abuse and personal attacks. She removes herself from the case. There is a shift in the room. For the defendant, it appears to be a victory. He demanded her removal, and she stepped aside. For the legal system, however, the case doesn't disappear. The charges remain. The process will continue with a different judge. Nothing about the allegations of resisting arrest or assaulting an officer has changed. But in that moment, the power dynamic feels altered. Some viewer may see this as the defendant successfully pushing back against authority. Others may see it as a strategic reset that ultimately changes nothing about his legal exposure. What makes this hearing so intense is not just the shouting or the accusations. It's the underlying clash of worldviews. The judge operates within a framework of law, procedure, and institutional legitimacy. The defendant operates from a place of deep distrust, believing the system itself is fundamentally unjust. When those two perspectives collide without compromise, the result is chaos. Throughout the hearing, the judge repeatedly attempted to ground the conversation in specific legal issues. She tried to move step by step through the process. She offered the defendant chances to respond appropriately. But each opportunity was met with resistance, each clarification with another accusation. In the end, the courtroom became less about the original charges and more about control, legitimacy, and narrative. The defendant wanted to frame himself as persecuted. The judge wanted to maintain procedural integrity. Both stood firm in their positions. The hearing serves as a powerful reminder of how fragile courtroom order can be. Respect for the bench is not just tradition, it's foundational to the system functioning at all. When that respect collapses, proceedings can unravel quickly. And yet, despite the chaos, the legal reality remains unchanged. Disqualification does not equal dismissal. Protest does not erase charges. Accusations do not replace evidence. What started as a routine hearing transformed into a dramatic confrontation that leaves viewer debating who truly gained ground. Did the defendant strengthen his position by forcing the judge to step aside? Or did he simply delay the inevitable while reinforcing the court's perception of him as combative and uncooperative? The answer may depend on perspective. But one thing is undeniable. This was not an ordinary day in court. It was a raw, unfiltered clash between an individual who sees himself as oppressed and a system determined to uphold its authority. And in that collision, the tension, the emotion, and the unpredictability created a courtroom moment that will not soon be forgotten.